Hey, Cesar, how's it going?
It's good. I'm right now in Durham, North Carolina. Yeah, it's really humid
Okay.
over here.
Yeah. So I'm in Maryland. So yeah, it's been pretty humid for the past
Yeah,
2, 3 weeks. Yeah.
nice. I think you've been there for a year or something like that. I still have you on Facebook, so I've seen some of your updates, but I don't know. We haven't chatted in a while.
Yeah, no, I see it every now and then too. Yeah, I've been here since January 2019. So yeah, about a year and a half.
Okay, nice. How do you
Yeah.
like it?
I like it a lot. I like it. I mean, I still love California, but
Hmm.
it's so different. I say it's you can't even compare them. So you just sort of have to
Right.
appreciate it on its own. And
Hmm.
I like the trees. It rains here all year long. I still get excited about the rain. You
Really?
know, I do. I do. Every time it rains, I'm like, oh, it's going to rain. And yeah, I like the trees. I like I go for morning walks and I see deer, in the morning. And
It's crazy you mentioned that. We saw some deer just in the backyard like 2 weeks ago. It looked, I don't know, like a little family of Bambis there. It was like three baby deers out there.
yeah, yeah, all
Um,
the little spots next to them and everything.
yeah, it's just the rain is a
That
love-hate
goes here in
relationship.
San Diego, man. You guys aren't special.
Oh, Mr. Carr, I haven't seen you
You're a
join.
fan.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with the rain here, it's a painful rain. It'll just be 90 degrees at 2 p.m. and then at
Oh, I know.
3:50 it starts pouring. And yeah, oh, it is what it is. How you doing, Mr. Carr?
So you don't like it out there.
Uh,
Cesar,
What's up, Mr. Carr? How are you?
man.
How's everything going?
It's going very well. It's good to see you. You're out there, and it's funny because you guys are in North Carolina and Maryland, and you're in two different states, but these Southern California kids don't understand that you might actually be closer than, you know, being in San Diego and the Bay Area.
Yeah, I think
Right.
you are. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many hours it is to Maryland, but I would be surprised if it was more than 5 or 6, to be honest. It's
Yeah.
I've driven it. I've driven
You've
it.
driven it. How many
In
hours is it?
Maryland. Well, I mean, I'm sorry. I was a rider in that when I was last time, probably when I was 17. Uh,
Okay.
when I was
So about
younger,
it's been a few years.
yeah, it's been many, many years. Um, but yeah, it's a nice ride too.
I gotta say, it's
Yeah.
beautiful out here.
I mean, it's a lot of fun. I really like Durham. I really like North Carolina. The summer has just been the weirdest weather-wise that I've ever had, I think, in my life. It's just I can't get over the night, like 80 degrees at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and then it rains at 2 p.m., and then it's still 85 degrees after that. It's
Well, and
That's
so
the part.
you have your fire in the background.
Oh yeah, this is for the aesthetic. I mean, this is just to make it more homey. This is all Sam's decor. I have not contributed any any decor feng shui kind of thing to it.
Hey, it looks good. You got the fireplace, you have the plant, a little bit of artwork, some
Yeah,
pillows.
no, it's
It's all
really nice. And then
coordinated.
yeah, and then we have the window there with the view of the backyard. That's what the deer was
Yeah.
a few weeks ago. No, I mean I'm very fortunate that Sam has a very
Good
very
woman in
pretty
your life.
apartment. What's up?
It's good that you have a good woman in your life.
Yeah, very very fortunate. Yeah.
So I think I actually met her at your graduation.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I think that was the first time I met her. Pitzer,
She went to Scripps,
but you went to
which is
Pitzer.
I did, yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Well,
Yeah, good memory.
and I remember I got some free orange sunglasses there.
That sounds like Pitzer. Yeah,
And we graduated the same day as Angelica, so I got to see both of you
that's
graduate
right.
the same day. And she was
Yeah,
at which school? Right
starts with a
across the park.
C. Yeah, right across,
St.
but it
Mama
starts with a
Kennedy.
C. That's
Yes.
right. Yep.
Yes. So I got to
Yeah.
see two graduates on the same day from Pars Lot, my original advisory class. It was a good day.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean
were
that.
you both in your advisory class?
Yeah, they were both in
Hmm.
my original one.
You were in my first AP European History class at Preuss.
That's right. Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
was your first year at
Yeah,
Proyce.
that was my first
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, it's crazy because I think I made the last time I saw you, Mr. Ramos, was maybe like one time that I visited after I had graduated, but I think that was it.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I always called him Little Caesar because he was literally the youngest kid in the class. I think he skipped a grade or started school early.
Yeah.
And so he graduated like 16, right?
Yeah, I was still 16
Wow.
during commencement.
So we had Autumn a couple of weeks ago, who was maybe the first person to walk across the stage. Now we have Cesar, who's probably the youngest graduate in the school's history.
Still?
Probably.
Wow.
Probably,
I mean,
yeah.
I graduated from Perth a long time ago, so it's that's surprising. It's been 10 years now. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's been
2010.
Yeah.
You guys will have a reunion, which will probably be virtual coming up, right?
I haven't been informed about any of these plans, so but it wouldn't be surprising if we still had COVID around that time, whenever that's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
So you were an immigrant. So you were born in Mexico, right?
No, I was born in El Paso, but because of where my dad was working, we lived in Mexico for at least until I was 12. And then we moved to the States. No, I was 9 when we moved to the States. Yeah, we moved to San Diego.
And then you came to our school as a 7th grader.
At 8th grade.
8th grader?
Yeah.
Was that right?
Yeah.
8th grade. Wow.
Yeah. I didn't start with the rest of the crew. The first 2 years I spent them at another school. So I've seen both, 2 very interesting sides of public education.
Yeah.
In San Diego.
And then you, and I remember when you first came, you were immature, and your age dictated it, and you were definitely annoying.
We can use a different word. Maybe energetic.
Energetic, precocious.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah.
And then I remember we had a talk one day, and then you righted the ship a little bit, and the rest is history. You graduated, and at Pitzer. Did you go to school for free?
What's up?
Did you go to school for free at Pitzer?
Yeah, I mean, I essentially got a very good financial aid package. My loans were just above 10,000 by the end of the 4 years, and that was made up of mainly, there's like a category every year that you get for necessities or disposable income, and that was kind of the one that the school wasn't gonna give me as a grant. So I took out a loan because at the time, if something came up and my laptop broke or something, I wanted to be able to have the resources to pay for it. So I graduated very little. I mean, I paid it all off already. It was
nice.
Yeah.
So Cesar, after you finished at Pitzer, you took a pretty unique path. What did you do, and tell us about your experience?
So immediately after graduating, I had a summer internship in Mexico City where I did research on immigration and the effects of deportation on children who traveled back with their parents. This was at the National Institute of Psychiatry for a few months. And then immediately after that, I left for a Fulbright in Spain. Super fortunate, I was able to get a research grant from the Fulbright Commission that allowed me to spend almost a year in Spain doing research on healthcare disparities for immigrant communities. And then after that, I came back to San Diego. I worked.
Actually, I'm sorry, can we go back a little bit?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we got to focus on that a little bit. So what is a Fulbright scholarship or Fulbright grant, and what is the process for pursuing that?
Yeah, so Fulbright is a program that was started right at the end of the World War II. It's like a bilateral exchange with almost every country in the world, from which American students will go abroad to either teach English or do a research project. And then some countries have special projects within it. So Spain had an MBA program where Americans could go and get an MBA at one of Madrid's business universities. And then likewise, there's foreigners who come into the US and they get a master's degree. And it's all essentially free for those who get it. A many number of heads of state around the world have gotten it. So Costa Rica's former president, the current king of Spain, I can talk numbers. I mean, the Wikipedia page probably shows you all the people who've gotten it at one point. I think Bill Clinton had it as well.
Didn't you meet the king of Spain?
I did, yeah. Yeah, he was a nice dude. So that also came from Fulbright, that experience.
So that was like a gap year between your undergrad degree and now, where are you?
Right now, physically, I'm not there, but I'm enrolled at Stanford. I'm a PhD candidate there at the political science department.
And so, but your interest before was public health, and now it's shifted to political science?
So the interest before was medicine. I originally, throughout undergrad and when I was at Pittsburgh, I took my OChem, my biochem, all the requirements that were with pre-med to go into medical school. And I went with that intention to Spain. I was very interested in seeing healthcare disparities and how they affected immigrants. And then the longer that I spent doing research and personal experiences, I've come to realize that there's a lot of political factors that come before the patient even walks in through the door to see the physician. There's issues about access, issues about integration into the community, issues about just knowledge for immigrants to know where they're able to seek care. And that's kind of how I became interested in doing a PhD, because I realized that as a physician, I would be able to have a direct impact on the patient if they happen to walk through the door. But as a researcher, I could look at the varying factors that determine who is ultimately able to walk in through the door and think of interventions or research designs that enable me to empirically infer whether there's things that we can do to improve access, or what happens once we improve access.
So you still have the same interest, but you found a different route to be more effective in making that change.
Yeah, I mean, I think the end goal is almost the same, right? It's to help people's lives at some degree. The nature of how that happens is different.
Stanford's a pretty expensive school. How much is it costing you?
So that's one of the things that I come to realize that is not widely known amongst at least the population that Troy serves, first generation immigrant students. PhD programs, by and large, are fully funded, and they provide you not only with a tuition waiver, but also a stipend. The stipend's not very large, especially for the role that you have in the university teaching and helping the professors, but it nonetheless pays the roof above your head, and so you're not going into debt getting a PhD. And if you do go to a university that charges you for a PhD, then I suggest waiting and applying to one that will give you a grant.
But everybody can't do that.
Do what?
Everyone can't just apply to Stanford, get school paid for, and get a doctorate for free. It's important to note that you getting a Fulbright and proving that you could do research, do you think that was the biggest factor in you getting accepted into Stanford, and for them wanting you and paying for your schooling so you could represent them?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's tough to answer because I wasn't in the room when they were picking applicants. So I don't know what it is exactly about my profile that they happen to want. I do think that I've been very fortunate. I went to an undergrad institution where I built really good relationships with faculty, and those faculty were able to write me strong letters of rec. I only know because of the outcome. I don't know, I never read them. And I think that's part of it. I think showing a history of interest in research and my personal statement, what I plan to do with my degree, I think that it's a combination of factors. I also needed to have good grades, which is perhaps a given. And I also had to study and take the GRE, which is another kind of roadblock for many students, being able to take standardized tests and do well in them.
And you've always been a great test taker.
I mean, I think it comes with the territory. I mean, I've known very early on that I'm not the smartest person in the room at times. So I've realized that the strength that I can have is spending more time on my weak areas. And I think that's kind of paid off in the testing. But I also don't get test anxiety or things like that, which is good.
I want to go back a little bit to you getting in. You're saying you weren't in the room, when people decided to admit you. We had a conversation with another graduate about what it is that you bring to the institution. And I'm just kind of curious, how do you talk about what it is that you offer Stanford? Is it, I'm sure it's both your your educational preparation, and yourself and your lived experiences, who you are. How do you talk about that? Do you tell people I only got there because I studied and I got the recommendations? Do you bring something as a Latino to Stanford that they wouldn't have otherwise, that you could get from your learning? How do you view what you bring to that institution?
It's tough, right? Because at a place like where I'm getting my degree, I'm probably one of very few Latinos in the graduate program. In my department, at least, there's not dozens of Cesars, there's not dozens of people with whom I speak Spanish. In fact, the people who I speak Spanish with the most is one, a cohort mate that's from Argentina, and then two, the janitorial crew that comes late at night when I'm still at the office. Yeah. And I've become very good friends with them. I know my first name, and they check in on me, and then they ask me, why am I still at the office working at 10 o'clock at night? And I those are reminders of why it is that I'm doing what I'm doing, because to a certain extent, I'm incredibly fortunate to have encountered mentors like you guys, like people at Pitzer, people outside of the academy who've kind of pushed me and steered me in the right direction. At the same time, my family has led me to where I am. So I think I contribute a number of things to Stanford beyond what I do when I write a paper or when I sit in class, which is this view of, I've seen what healthcare exclusion looks like. I've felt it. I've met people who have it. I've had to travel to TJ to get medication. And then that kind of lived experiences can translate into my research, because I know certain things about what is going on that perhaps you can't just find in a book. I also think I bring a little bit of interdisciplinary experience, because I wasn't raised by academics. My family is not full of people who have PhDs. So there are things that I think about that are not apparent from reading some of the major pieces in the literature. So I don't think that it was because of my race that I got in. I think there were a number of other things. I do think it's very difficult for someone like me with my profile to be able to get in, which is why I try not to take it for granted, and try to do what I can.
So, Kneeling and Healing, we kind of talk about how our alums are using their platform, they are dedicating their lives, and they are showing how they can make an impact and bring us forward socially. And you're doing that right now through your research. So tell us a little bit more about your research.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest roadblocks to immigrants, not only in the US, but abroad, is access to healthcare. Because access to healthcare can not only be a roadblock for social mobility, but it can also have intragenerational impact. If we look at some of the downstream effects of someone getting sick or not being able to go to work, and we're looking at people going to debt. We're looking at people who may be undocumented that have to forego needed care until the disease gets much more complicated, much more difficult to cure. So what I'm looking at is the political determinants of healthcare access for immigrants. And what that entails is not only looking at what are the incentives for politicians to extend healthcare access for this population who at the end of the day cannot vote for them. So I don't know if you guys are familiar, but in California, they recently passed a new piece of legislation that undocumented immigrants up to 26 years old are now able to get Medicaid, full-fledged Medicaid, like anybody else in the state. And these are some of the policies that, looking at the political science literature, don't quite make sense, because these people are not able to vote for the legislators pushing for these policies. So what is it that's driving these politicians to extend healthcare access? Because that not only happens in the US. In Spain, when I went for my Fulbright, it was because they had just ended universal healthcare access for undocumented immigrants. They had it for a number of years. They since 2019, I believe, they reinstated it. So these politicians are doing investments in the population because they think of all the factors that sometimes we think about, which are, if they get sick, they can get everybody else sick. These people are living among us. So if they end up at the hospital, someone has to pay for their care. So it's better for them to treat them at the onset of the disease. But there's very little evidence in the literature about how these things happen. And at the same by the same idea, I want to see how is it that citizens in these settings view immigrants having access to healthcare. Right now with coronavirus, it would be apparent that people are pushing for policies that expand healthcare access, because you don't know if the person down the street from you may have it or not. And that person may be here visiting from out of town, from out of state, from out of the country. They may be enjoying healthcare access, or they may have not seen a doctor in years. So you would think that some of these policies will get pushed right now. Are they not? And how do they compare with other social services that immigrants should receive, in my opinion, education to public schools, and some of these other things? That's something we think as vital for a person's ability to thrive. And then lastly, what I want to look at is, well, if these levers of access are getting moved by the polity and also the politicians, the political elites, how does that then affect the immigrants who are tapping into these services? Are people taking advantage of them, or are they staying away from the doctor's office because they think if I go over there, they are going to arrest me and they're going to take me back to my original country? Are they also not taking their children, even though their children are US citizens, because they think even though my child is a full-fledged American citizen, if I take them to the doctor's office, I may jeopardize my legal status here. So these are also the questions that I want to answer, that I want to tap into. I don't know where it's going to lead. It might end up being a book. It might end up being a handful of papers. It might, we'll see how this goes. I mean, coronavirus is definitely going to be affecting all the research that I do from now on.
Yeah.
So we will see what comes out.